place. Yeah, they're on a bicycle. So, so it has.
Do you have to let people in when they appear, or do they just?
Burn Strong got on. I don't think I have to let anybody in.
Because Michael's trying to. Okay.
I will watch
So
though.
see the total number of vehicles that pass through each day. So it's pretty, if you see detailed, it does, so it has a table file which the time intervals and how many people were going between 0 and 35, 36, 40, 41 to 45.
How long was the period of that study? Was it 24 hours long? Or?
No, it was. You know, it's kind of interesting to see what the actual numbers are, but as I said, I tried to print it, but it was not successful.
Yeah, well, and that's, it all depends on what time of year you're putting that thing out. So
Exactly. Yeah, fair time, Wednesday when the kid, like today when I went for a walk and all the cars were parking.
Yeah, it was really packed.
one thing.
And they were trying to move trailers to park down on the fairgrounds. So the road was really congested and back up.
Yeah. So just interesting stuff. But I think what's happening, I talked to Rita, and so the scoping study probably won't happen until after the first of the year. And so the scoping study and the speed limits are all kind of tied together in the land of V-Trans. So yeah, so I don't know when they're going to change the posted speed limit, but I have a feeling it's going to tie in with some other things, the question of crosswalks, which has come up. Mariah sent me something about crosswalks too. So, and yeah, the crosswalks and the speed limit are all, put in. So I think, and so I went to the select board, and Mariah and I are going to be on, we're going to be able to meet with the V-Trans engineer when it comes. So, and hopefully we'll can gather a bunch more information to present our case. Mariah Siller. Yeah. So she says she wanted to participate in that. So that's my news on sidewalks and speed limit.
Nice work, Janet.
We go back to public comment.
Michael is not on.
Do we want to just save it for the end?
Sure. We should vote on the minutes next.
Yeah. I sent them all to you again. Or I guess I sent them all to you once.
I move to approve the minutes from the September meeting.
Also, you know,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thanks, Amy.
So I had brick grant discussion, and then town ARPA updates, which is really more for anyone who'd gone last night to the select board meeting to kind of inform the group.
Yeah.
But we can, okay, so maybe we should just do the brick discussion, because I know Rudy had. Yeah, so we should wait for Rudy on that too. Did you went to the meeting last night?
I did go to the meeting.
Well, do you want to wait on that conversation or Rudy?
ARPA?
Yeah, we're gonna just do brick.
Sure.
Stuff
Yeah,
with
let's
the-
talk about the break.
Okay. The brick is more Marianne and I are gonna meet on Friday and actually dig into the application.
So I can give you an update.
That'd be great.
I had to meet with Rita Sito from Two Rivers today anyways on a whole bunch of other questions. And so I just asked her about the brick, which she indicated is not necessarily her area of expertise, but she knew a lot about it. So take that with a grain of salt, but she said that the most recent awards through the BRIC grant have been large bridge upgrades. That's what they're really pretty much funding right now with the BRIC. I asked about, because Amy, you had mentioned to me a scoping study for flood mitigation, and I asked her about that, and she said that all towns should have a local hazard mitigation plan. It's
We have
required. And you have one, and yours was recently approved, I think, within the last year by FEMA. So she felt like they were not likely to approve you for a scoping flood mitigation grant because you should have done all of that work already, and it's in that plan.
No, I think
Yeah.
Rita's off base on this, because Stephanie Smith is actually in charge of it, the bridge. And her office is very much behind us. She's the one that told us to, she'd hold our hand through it.
Okay, that's just what she said today, so I was writing it
I
down.
think she's just a step behind it because you have to have the
And-
the
and-
mitigation plan in order to go to the next step and get more.
And Marion, that's something unfortunate that could happen a few times. I use Two Rivers a lot and I really love them, but once in a while they're behind the 8 ball, what's happening, or at least it's not in there.
So
or
we
scope.
can talk about that, then that sounds like maybe that we should talk to Stephanie Smith instead. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing I mentioned to her today was the Spring Road culvert and the sliding bank. 'Cause I met with Rodney on Sunday and he brought that up as well. And both Rodney and Rita indicated that they had previously been told that until the road has failed in some way, you're not likely to get a FEMA grant because they're so competitive. You would have to prove that it's washed out a certain number of times or you've fixed the bank once before. So her suggestion was that if we want to try to go that route, that we should bring out someone named Pat Ross, who is apparently a streams and rivers engineer.
Well, I think Rudy works with Pat quite a bit.
And that he would have to do an assessment, take some pictures and tell us, yes, this is a big fix and you really need a grant to do this and it is going to fail in some period of time. So that was her recommendation. If we want to use it for that, we need to and go down the path of getting him a recommendation from him to include with that grant.
Is that at Gordy Barnaby's driveway?
I guess I thought we would apply for the grant for money to pay Pat Ross to come out and do this thing.
The engineer.
Yeah, he is the engineer.
Charges, but the engineer, so that this is the direction that Stephanie Smith has been saying the BRIC grant would help us evaluate some of our issues that we think are in the future here. There's a lot of money in a kitty that they're begging us to apply for in a proper manner, and then she personally directed us towards the BRIC.
So then I think that's to meet with her then, because those are the two pieces I got from Rita and it sounds like they weren't applicable.
Well, and then you also got the information about how to crack the code to get into the grant itself, right? From sort of,
Sort of.
yeah, it's
You didn't,
weird.
if this is being recorded, I won't say it. We have to sign in as Mariah. So she has been unable to get Becky or I signed up with our own accounts, but we can sign in through Mariah's account. So we can get in, but it has to be with Mariah.
Mhm. So I do think this is something that a couple months ago, I contacted Lisa Kolb and went to a seminar, and she said that if Mariah is the administrator, she needs to assign privileges.
Yeah.
So maybe,
I sat with Mariah and tried
There's
to
no way to
do
do
that.
that.
and- Well, I don't know if she just didn't understand. So she was able to add my email,
Mhm.
but now anything that comes to Mariah also comes to Becky's email and my email, but it still doesn't give us the opportunity to log in or have our own.
So I will send what Lisa Kolb sent to me, which was pretty much a step-by-step of how to do this. And I had sent it to Becky and Mariah when we were trying to figure this out before you come on board. So I can resend that and maybe that will, maybe now that we're looking at it, it can work.
Any of you remember the name of the person Stephanie Smith said that she's going to assign?
Lisa Kolb,
Okay.
I think.
Because she
That's
said
who I spoke
they're
to.
waiting for a phone call. And she said it's not that hard. She said it's actually a pretty easy process for the BRIC.
Maybe she.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I think don't struggle too long, pick up the phone
Yeah.
and they're over here, we're here. Choose them. What about the buyout? That wasn't under the, are you through with the brick or?
Well, I think we had some more that we were gonna think about with the brick, right?
Yeah, I
Because
think we had
talked
talked
before.
about potentially just coming to some level of consensus of what we wanted to start with for an application, whether it's the river, sort of the up the Spring Road, Recreation Road, where they meet, and the curve at the fairgrounds as like the primary area of study for the funding. Given Rodney's concerns about Spring Road, potential concerns about Recreation Road, and then the bank here below the library as like the three main highlights of potential disaster. So I think that's Amy, because Amy and Marianne are gonna start working on it, just getting a level of agreement on, that's what we want to put in to start with. We can always add things before it gets submitted.
So
So
we are gonna add the Spring Road to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to me to like have it be like the Y of that waterway down to the curve in the fairgrounds behind the,
And then the Spring Road with it.
yeah.
I agree with it. I like that. What do you think?
have we determined that by the library is the state's issue, or is that our issue, or hence are we doing the study to be able to take it to the state and say you got a problem, or?
I think that we had talked about that and it may end up prodding them.
Because it's only about the bank that's 110.
For you.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's the state, ultimately, I feel like it's a state's problem, but I understand, but it's also like, how much money, yeah, ultimately, the money's coming from the state, it's not a big deal. But once it isn't our money to spend,
There's a portion of it that's our money.
that becomes the tricky part.
That's the tricky part that we have to think.
Is it
about.
unnecessary?
I'm
Or is it
wondering,
necessary?
I'm wondering if the library section of it, below the library on that side, would end up triggering them as they stand there with their experts. They look up and say, well, the river comes around and it actually starts up there in the state section. Maybe we could move it that way, where we have Tunbridge sections, but when they look upstream, they go, ooh, kind of starts right there in that state.
I bet that's something Stephanie could give us guidance on with like a proposal, like
There you go, yeah.
we're
Yeah.
concerned about this section of river. Part of it is gonna impact a state road. Part of it's gonna impact.
Wouldn't Pat Ross be somebody that would also be able to?
I think he's down the line, to be honest with you. I think Pat Ross is way down the line when we get this going. First, you gotta get the,
First, we have to get the grant, then we
Yeah.
need to get the.
Well,
and they'll pick who they.
except we do it, I know that the seminar I went to, they said you have to be pretty, and she showed us, when you start drilling down into the application, they do want some specifics.
So we might.
I'm
need-
not sure yet what that will look like, but I don't think we can be super vague and be like, I think we have to have some sense of what we're trying to do and how we're gonna do it, who we're gonna hire or something.
But doesn't the brick grant, it's not supposed to lay it out for us? It's like your sidewalk thing. You can't do a thing until you get the study done. So they can tell you what you need. How can we decide how many loads of anything or, but we're not experts on that.
Right, no, and that's not what they're asking for, but what, I thought it would just be kind of like generally, we need money, just sort of a general conversation, and when she was showing us on her screen share, it was a little more information they were looking for, like, why do you need this? What's been done before?
Yeah.
How have you examined this, to know that you're gonna need this? How do you propose to like make this, just, it was
So
more.
that's why I was thinking someone like Pat Ross might be able to give that kind of overview of which piece goes where. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Brenda's probably right. It's a different domain for him. Personally, I think, scope, the appeal of this brick grant is the fact that it will allow for a scoping, planning, thing, so I'm sorry I'm coming in late to the conversation, but it sounds like you're talking about the corner.
Mhm.
Seems to me to be the primary focus, but as part of that planning, it really ties to our alternate transportation route in a flood, in particular, which I think ties it to the Stratford Road, both the Stratford and Spring Road pieces, because if both of those have mass failures that are an issue for those as being an alternative route in a flood, we got to be thinking about what
How to get
what's our
services in.
available transportation routes if we lose that corner.
So
Um,
what, I guess the reason that I'm on the Pat Ross thing is because, and you missed this part of the conversation about, he was suggested by was it Rita, Marianne? That said to have him come in and like do a little overview of the Spring Road issue, which I think would, help to kind of, fortify our position about why we need the grant.
From what I understand with Stephanie Smith, this grant, the brick grant, what we have to have is pictures, what we know we've lost part of Route 110. We know there's, the road foreman is concerned about certain things. We know that the Stratford Road may have issues. And we can document. Irene took out one half of Route 110 across from the store. We know that it's undermining when they redid something quickly there after Irene, that is now eroding part of the fairgrounds and eating into the embankment. We have, and they said take
We have.
pictures. And she said it's a bit more simplistic than
Okay.
jumping to the path. I think at that point, I think it's a distraction a little bit. Trying to get this in. I don't know how to say that, but Rita comes at it from a totally different angle. She's coming at it from the road crew. Culverts. Victory is supposed to help us figure out how we're going, what we need to have done.
Well, so was there anything else? I mean, Rodney was very clear about that place on the Spring Road. In general, we were just talking about scoping the downtown and that with attention to that area, that corner. But was there anything else to toss in there?
I mean, up towards Recreation Road, the Stratford Road, because we're concerned about the loss of
The bank there.
access to the stone for emergency services.
So in Irene, Rodney parked the equipment in town just in case. So it seems like it'd be worth thinking about that.
There was a point I turned,
Including that piece in the scoping.
The Recreation Road to the town garages, yeah.
I know my road got used a lot during Irene, because I was turning water and it turned out that Drew Road held up on
What
that
about-
one, and then we lost Drew Road on it
What about
soon after.
on Foundry? I don't know if it's where you go down on the store side, that bank there. I know Rodney's talked about that in the past, but I don't know. If you're talking about alternative routes, all of a sudden you gotta go up and around. How much that's, but it's right, you don't really realize, I realize it because you go over it, but it's pretty much a 90-degree bank that
We can
any time it could go.
taken one dead body out of that.
Oh, really?
Actually, there's one live and one dead. They were sandwiched.
Oh my goodness, it went right down over it.
They were taking a leak.
Oh,
in the
no.
truck, leaking on them.
Whoa.
Gas cap in the chest.
Oh, no. Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
That's how far we go.
So, yeah, you.
It is a spot.
I can add Boundary Road to the list and then.
I don't know. I mean, if your wish list, right? You start out with those and somebody say, well, that's applicable or it's not. But that may be another question for Rodney if there's any others.
Yeah, I was wondering, because the hazard mitigation plan, I think, can be used to guide some of what we're asking for. And I know we talked about the corner there by Orange County Parent-Child
Right.
Center as being one that's vulnerable for flooding and access. If we should just add in like other problem areas
Right.
as an additional list beyond the sort of like more cohesive section of river and roadways that are right here in the village.
Here's the list in that
We almost got,
mitigation plan.
in the, as far as an emergency plan that I work on for the town, we almost always get a cutoff for not a long period of time, but hours between Tunbridge and North Tunbridge.
Is that at
During
the
flood
curve
or
there where
also-
the flamingos are?
By Whitney, where Whitney Hill comes in.
Sometimes it's where Whitney Hill comes in, and sometimes it's a little more on the flat, right
Oh,
there,
by
where their
Fitzgerald's.
footbridge used to be.
Yeah,
Across from.
From there
Whitney.
on down,
That's probably, yeah, historically, that's it.
right, from the footbridge down to the new vet.
And what about on
the
the other side of
elevation on the
Channel?
far side of the road is actually slightly lower than, so yeah, that's.
Well, it's slightly lower than the river.
Yeah, if you eyeball it going by, it's actually, it's probably an old meander of the river,
Oh, yeah, sure.
I guess.
During the floods, we had at one point, when we were handling it as an emergency, trying to get to everybody, we had a command center. The only way we had in and out, we have one route in and out for the ambulances to drive.
Which was,
Monarch for a while, and then we also had the Foundry Road for a while, and then Clink one tearing up through it.
and what about this end of town by Channel House?
And usually that even before Channels,
Yeah, even
by then,
before, just
after the-
after Blakeman.
just after the pink house.
Yeah.
And by Blakeman's. But it's not long. You know, it's a few hours. But we've had to have an ambulance come through. We were worried about it shutting the ambulance off. If we actually lost the road, it's a different story. There's a lot of places the state's in charge, and I don't know what we do about that, as long as we can get out the Stafford Road and some of our other roads. So we're trying to address that. And we're trying to spur the state. And Ruby and I were we've addressed with the state that culvert by the firehouse.
Yeah, all these things you've just named are the bullet points in the.
Mm.
hazard mitigation plan. So
Yeah.
I just lifted those out, so maybe that's something we just throw in the application.
Yeah, they're almost like areas of issue on
Yeah.
state maintained roads for emergency response purposes. And then our main one is local roads for the same reason, but not under state
Mhm,
repair.
mhm.
Great.
That was kind of it on the brick. I mean, I guess Marion and I will talk on Friday, and then I'll just, bear with me.
I think we can, I think we can fluff out what you need for.
Yeah.
Stuff when you get there.
Yeah. The main thing, we just have to start it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
What's the deadlines on the brick?
I think we said December 28th, but that's the deadline to Stephanie. And then their deadline's like 3 weeks into January or something. They want to have a chance to make it look good and polish it. Yeah.
I think your intention is very sincere to help us on that.
That's my impression, yeah.
Great. So ARPA,
The update.
was anybody at the ARPA select board conversation yesterday?
She was.
Would you like to give us some punch list of what they talked about?
So we are gonna have another ARPA community meeting November 15th. And Sarah from Two Rivers is gonna run that again. and the rough agenda is they're gonna do another overview in case there's new people who aren't aware of what ARPA is. And then the select board has adopted a process. So they're gonna put out a deadline. I believe it's gonna be January 1st for all first round applications. So anyone interested in requesting dollars would have to fill out an application, which they have a one pager, and someone was confirming whether it's actually on the website or not. But it will be put up on the website. If it's not, you'd fill that out, send it in, and then at some point after January 1st, the select board will review all of those applications and commit first round dollars. And we're calling it first round dollars because then one of the key steps would be for me to look through that and see if we can find grants that might be able to give us. And then if we can pay with ARPA as matching versus ARPA paying the entire fund, then we may have another round of money once we go through that and see if there's other grants we can apply. So there would be potentially a second round. And then, so that's the process that she's going to review at the meeting.
Can I ask you a question? Are they dividing the money so that they can do 2 rounds, or the second round, they're gonna allocate the 100% of the dollars, and then they might do a second round if you can find grants that would free up? Okay.
That's how I understood the
Okay.
conversation last night. They'll try to allocate everything, and then if at the end there's more money because of extra grants.
Mhm.
then I believe they've asked Sarah to go through the actual one-page application and take questions in case anyone has any concerns about the way the one-page application is written. And then they're going to review the dollars that have already been committed, and then review the criteria that was agreed on at the last meeting.
When are they reviewing the criteria?
At that meeting, those are all the things that Sarah's gonna go over at the meeting. So. And then they did, Brenda presented a request, actually, a timely request that she needed approval for an ARPA commitment of dollars in advance of this process because there's an emergency operations center grant that is due, I think, November 18th. And so that would be
15th.
before their process goes forward, and they approved that request for up to $50,000 from the ARPA fund. to
It's a-
match that
Yeah,
grant.
it's a 50-50 grant. If we can get stuff that meet the criteria for this building here.
For this update.
Yeah, this is our emergency operating center. So we're gonna stuff in as.
And I think that's what was decided, but all of that took us an hour.
Pretty good.
That 90-second review took an hour.
That's it? That's all? It only took an hour? Efficient.
And the only other thing that we talked about related to grants was a request from them that going forward, any grants that individual committees want to apply for, they want select board approval first. And that apparently they've had at least one grant that someone applied for sort of on their own without town, knowing that the town was interested in going forward with that. So they made it formal and put it in their notes.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Was there a lot of people there?
No. Three, and Nissa came, Brenda, Janet were in the room, right? And
Just Melissa and myself as public and the select board.
and there were 4 of us, I think, on the phone.
Okay. You were not there.
Someone
Maybe it
popped
was your
in and
ghost.
Someone popped in
Yeah.
and was shot in the video. Who was it?
Maybe then after I left.
So is there more discussion about the criteria? Because I know we got sort of hung up on that in the last.
No, so
That's where we sort of ended the meeting, the last community meeting.
that's what they wanted Sarah to revisit the criteria with everybody at the November 15th meeting, because they felt that there may need to be a fleshing out of some of the criteria as they reviewed projects. They were gonna ask if, you know, if people would say like, oh, this meets that criteria or it doesn't, but we didn't define the individual criteria. We just came up with a list of criteria. So they wanted Sarah to re-review it and see if anybody had questions about what did that really mean when you say has lasting impact. What, 5 years, 15 years, 100 years, what is lasting impact?
Well, I did send an email after our last meeting to the select board saying, we're here to help. Remember we talked about that? And did not get an overwhelming response, so, you know, fine, but I don't know what role the planning commission is anything.
They haven't asked us to do anything in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the state's been pretty clear that they're really kind of the ones that's supposed to decide. And they could try to
But doesn't
hand it off.
doesn't it somehow relate to like the town plan? Like, because the idea of the town plan is, this is like going forward, what, like all the hazard mitigation stuff is in there.
Town plan, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Every group has you know.
Well, I mean, I just, you know, that's where I think the planning commission, because there's the information there that they can use to back up what they want to do.
You can give them a little bound.
Yeah, that's ultimately what our role is to create that thing as an advisory to them, as a reference to them upon their request. If they choose not to use us as a resource, that's their,
Okay, so.
that's kind of their, you know, it's unfortunate, we're offering
I don't.
our assistance, but maybe they don't need it. Don't
I
know.
guess so.
And how about, what about just the planning commission's position on some of the funding? I mean, are we, is that,
Well, we brought up like a TV, a larger TV, so when the owl is functioning, you actually can see who's, look, I can't see that right now. We could have it placed in here where we could see where everybody was. And it makes it feel a little.
Just so you know, I don't think you want to see it.
Well, they have it, I just came from a meeting in South Wilton, they do that, and it does add, and enhances knowing who's in the room when they're talking, everybody here can then look at them, and it's a bigger picture. And we're
Is that
all
what's
involved,
on the
someone
screen
talks now,
there?
I haven't got a clue, and someone.
Would you like to see what's on the screen? The camera on the computer doesn't work, so it doesn't matter who it's facing. There you go, we can face you all. You just have to watch to see if there's a chat message that comes through.
So is someone on the screen, if everything's working right and they start talking, they're gonna pop up more, all
Right.
looking at them, which does enhance the.
Yeah, so now, so
Experience.
Fern and Michael are listening in.
Mhm,
Correct?
and P2E?
And P2E.
mhm.
Who's P2E? We should know.
Wow.
They're here. Oh, okay, there you go.
Okay, so that was the one request we had, was for the, I know we put that in for the,
Mhm.
I just feel like we keep having to we should keep putting ARPA on our agenda, but maybe not. It has nothing to do with us. at this point. Just people who go to the select board meetings and participate in the ARPA discussions. But
Well,
am I right?
You had mentioned, why fix up this building? Maybe we should be thinking about a whole new building. And I was gonna give you, that realized afterwards. I just came from a meeting, I'm working on a new rescue building in South Wilton. It's kind of in a really disheveled place, and the fire department has been asking for 8 years for them to get out because they don't have any room for all their fire trucks. So anyways, a very basic building, very basic, with an attached garage. It's got an estimate coming in without the water and the septic of 800,000. So if it gives you some food for thought. So I'd
Why-
say
why-
a million.
I was
Might
only
be.
advocating, I was thinking was another way to think about those funds.
I want to make
But
sure
yeah,
I gave you that,
yeah,
that foundation for you to work on.
yeah. Well, we'll need to find matching grants.
That's also
Yeah, we'll have to get on that.
Yeah, $1 million in some kind of financing.
Yeah.
When you have a municipal building, you have the state step in. A lot of wants.
But not a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if the meeting happens and the select board gets really like wild, like some sort of, you know, wild hair idea, like maybe we could provide some guidance.
If it doesn't follow the plan, this will be our position to let them know that that doesn't.
What, my zip line from one town forest to the other?
I don't think that's so crazy. but
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I could think of like wild things, but don't need to.
So we know you can break into computers. We'd like to hear the wild side.
But yeah, I mean, we're kind of here in that regard. I think that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah,
Otherwise, if personally you got ideas, you can go to the meeting and join this like anybody else.
We're kind of target. In a distance.
Guardrails and bumper cars, not just regular cars, bumper cars, because they're gonna hit your guardrail.
think about those bumpers
Picture
and
the
bowling
select
alleys
board
that can
getting a
go up
whack
and down at
there.
will, like depending on
Depending on your
who's
skill.
bowling.
That's right.
It's a good analogy.
Gutter, so you don't get any gutter bottles. Yeah.
Terrible idea. They go up.
Okay,
Moving on. Well, we just have old business, new business, public comment.
we already talked about the sidewalk.
We
That's
talked about the
old
sidewalk.
business.
Um, I mean, term limits was raised a long time ago, and that's just floating there, and it will continue to float there.
Yeah,
New business.
any new business? New business?
Well, it sounds like we got it enough on our plate.
Is Tunbridge doing anything for Halloween? Does that count as new business?
Oh. Tunbridge usually does do
The
something,
library
right?
does something. doesn't
Yeah.
it?
And is it on Halloween or is it on Sunday? Because South Royalton is on Monday.
Oh, they do the trunk or treat.
Yeah, that's on
We
Saturday.
don't know, we're,
In South Royalton, that's on Saturday.
Yeah.
So yeah, my question is, are there gonna be kids walking
Yeah,
up and
you-
down the road here?
you haven't bought your candy yet?
I'm taking donations from anyone outside that has kids.
The fire department has done it up at John O'Brien's.
Oh, that was
Oh, that's
that was
right.
years ago. though.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then Colt, just before Colt.
I think it was the haunted trails. That was.
That was cool though.
Sure.
So John, if you're listening,
He's not. Not yet.
So potentially Monday night, but maybe Sunday night,
Maybe Saturday
or
night,
maybe overnight.
every night there'll be.
Right, you can if you're a kid.
Yeah.
Just have the costume ready to go.
Yeah.
Ready at will. So
It's
if,
been worn already.
what you gotta do is tell Finn, go to Janet's house on Saturday night. Monday, but you need 3 different costumes.
All with a mask.
Okay. Any other new business? Yeah.
Just the radar machines. That you see other towns have, with the things that put up front.
Oh, yeah.
with speed limit. So I think that's due November 14th or something like that. So I'm looking into getting a quote for those and applying for that. We don't know if we'll see them. The suggestion was to apply for 2, and see what we get. Thinking 1 at this end of the town. And then the suggestion was 1 up by the school, but it was very, given a short deadline, I'm gonna go ahead and put 2 in and then we can't actually, don't have the space to do the one by the school. We'll figure it out.
So there was a grant available for purchasing those.
It's a federal grant, and so I don't have all the details yet. I do have the first quote coming in. I need,
They're not very expensive, though, right?
I don't have the quote yet.
I don't have the quote, okay.
Never
I-
tried to
it's-
purchase one.
So I was just thinking that was like all kind of part of the speed limits and the crosswalk and what signs.
Halloween's coming up, but I know some towns that have them. You guys are up for it.
It's cabbage.
Yeah. Stratfords are in Tunbridge. Trick or treat.
Michael's also left. So we just have Fern on.
We started talking Halloween and
Fern, do you have any public comment?
Nope, just listening, catching up on town business.
Do you have any info about Halloween, Fern?
Nothing happened over here on our side of the town.
Okay, it's important in my household, but don't you know all the details?
you're gonna
No
get grilled when you
reaction.
get home.
Oh, yeah, I know.
These School children usually plan on going on the actual Halloween day, and they'll hit North Tunbridge and South Tunbridge at a minimum.
Okay.
Well, I wonder if the stores are gonna do something.
That might be a good suggestion for
Yeah,
this.
it might.
Yeah. Ask Erica.
Used to be the stores where you got the good stuff.
So you mean kids walk through North Tunbridge, then they come down to this village?
And they really only still hit North Tunbridge because there's a lady right below the store that makes popcorn balls.
You got the inside in.
This is the information that
Oh, I
we need.
Yeah. make it easy. Prepare for a long night.
Yeah,
And sugar high later. Yeah.
we're still working off our 4th of July candy, which is pretty good.
You're still worried, so you give it back to him?
No, he just doesn't eat it all.
Oh,
He
wow.
likes to keep it
Sounds like Hannah.
for
She
later, and then
hoards
it gets
yeah,
like
and it's like,
stale.
where'd you get that? Oh, that's, I'm like,
You get a little squirrel in them.
yeah, oh, yeah.
All right, anything else on our agenda?
Adjourn.
Great.
Does anyone have
Motion to
anything?
adjourn.
Seconded.
Great. Thanks, Fern.
So you folks all know about our next garage lot renaming project that's coming up with Izzy.